It's the Elohim, the Mellow Mystic, Lord Emmanuel, Chief of simonicanation, Spiker Star Seed, the wheat in the Virgin's hand. And if you don't know, now you know. Check this out though. About to get into the Indigenous and Ancestral Rights course from the Simonican Mystery School of Spiker. As above, so below. When it comes to being the original custodians of the land, that plays a major role in the so below aspect of what is above or what is within your memory, your DNA. This is the time where our DNA is going to be coming online. Our memories will be returning. So, we want to get to know what life is like, or what is life is supposed to be outside of the colonial colonizing concepts corporate concepts that you've been given or you may have been born into. Because all that shit is over. If you haven't noticed, all of that shit is over. So, let's get into the Indigenous and Ancestral Rights course. This is available at simonicanation.org. All the courses are $33 and all of the guidebooks are $5. The purpose of this course is to educate individuals on indigenous and ancestral rights from a private, historical, cultural, and lawful perspective. It focuses on lineage, land, memory, custom, and standing outside of modern corporate citizenship frameworks. So this course is for individuals with indigenous ancestry, either documented or oral, those reclaiming ancestral identity outside of colonial systems, sovereignty students seeking ancestral grounding, heirs, descendants, and lineage holders, and spiritual and cultural stewards. So lesson 1.1 goes into indigenous identity and ancestral memory. So module 1 introduces the foundations of indigenous identity, exploring ancestry, memory, and lineage. It emphasizes understanding identity outside of colonial definitions, recognizing the influence of history and reclaiming personal and ancestral memory. So, what indigenous means beyond legal definitions. So, we're going to go into the difference between legal recognition and lived identity. because it's not about getting recognized by the U.S. corporation. It's not about them recognizing you as anything. It's about you being you, you being who you say you are, and you're recording that among your tribe, your nation. We also gonna go into blood, soil, and memory as markers of indigenous identity and identity versus enrollment or citizenship. So, indigenous identity is first and foremost ancestral and spiritual, rooted in family, community, and land. Legal recognition or government enrollment often fails to capture true lineage, and in many cases can erase or obscure ancestral memory. Being indigenous is not about meeting someone else's criteria. It's about remembering your connection to your ancestors and land. Okay, so now we're going to go into ancestral memory and lineage consciousness. So we can recognize and access ancestral memory as a guide to identity. Things like DNA as a historical, spiritual record, oral tradition versus written history, and remembering without permission or external validation. So ancestral memory resides in stories, traditions, and even your own body. Consciousness or conscious reflection and research can revive suppressed or forgotten histories. Recording these memories ensures continuity for yourself and future generations. So we'll go into the impact of colonization on identity because we want to understand historical disruption of indigenous identity and lineage. So we'll go into things like erasure, reclassification, and paper genocide, surnames, land loss, and forced assimilation. Because they want you to give your surname. That's their shit. First name, middle name, last name. Indigenous don't have surnames. So and also going into the effects on modern descendants. So colonization systematically disrupted indigenous identity through land theft, forced assimilation, and the imposition of foreign systems. Many descendants inherit confusion about their identity. Recognizing these patterns allows individuals to reclaim ancestral authority and consciousness without relying on colonial validation. So now we'll go into module 2, which goes into lineage, bloodlines, and family records. So module 2 focuses on privately establishing lineage and ancestry using family knowledge, oral tradition, historical records, and sworn statements. The goal is not government recognition, but ancestral clarity and continuity. This module teaches how to trace bloodlines without surrendering authority to external institutions. So you want to learn how to trace ancestry using private, lawful, and practical methods. So things like oral history as primary evidence. You know what I mean? Aunties and them, grandmamas. Record these things privately with a witness, affidavit. You know what I mean? So family Bibles, photographs, letters, heirlooms, census records, birth records, and historical references, and affidavits as a living testimony. So lineage existed long before databases and agencies. Families preserved ancestry through story, memory, and record keeping. Modern records can assist, but they are secondary to family testimony. Affidavits from living relatives serve as powerful declarations of truth when properly written and witnessed. Students are encouraged to collect information without submitting it to outside systems. Your records are for you, your family, and your heirs. So we're going to blood quantum versus ancestral continuity. You know, and we'll go into things like origins of blood quantum policies, fractional identity versus living lineage, and why indigenous identity is not a math equation. So, blood quantum was introduced as a colonial administrative tool, not an indigenous tradition. Its purpose was often to diminish populations on paper over generations. Indigenous identity, by contrast, is maintained through continuity, culture, and recognition within family and community. Your ancestry does not disappear because it cannot be fractioned neatly. Continuity exists as long as lineage is remembered and honored. So now we're going to maternal and paternal lines to learn how ancestry flows through both maternal and paternal lines. And we're going to go through things like matrilineal versus patrilineal traditions, clan, family, and household structures, surname changes, and lineage disruption. So many indigenous cultures recognize lineage through the mother's line, while others honored both lines equally. Colonial Colonial naming systems often severed this understanding by imposing surnames and legal identities. Reconstructing lineage requires attention to both maternal and paternal ancestors, including name changes, adoptions, and relocations. So in the next video, we'll go into module 3, which is indigenous law, custom, and natural law. You know, because the custodians of the land go by natural law. We live by natural law. We don't go by custom. We don't go by the statutes and codes of a corporation. That don't have nothing to do with the custodians of the land.